Hello and welcome everyone, welcome back for this puzzle series, and today we'll be finishing the series because we'll go from puzzle 76 to puzzle 100. So those are puzzles with checkmate in 2, and let me recall that you can write the solution you think in the chat. So for example, if I think the solution is to move the pawn there, like this, I write plus and then the coordinate of the first square. The coordinate is 9, 6, and I wrote the coordinate of the arrival square. And there is a bot that will count the move so that people can vote, and I will analyze those moves after. And it's 1 minute per puzzle. So this was puzzle 75, the puzzle we finished on last week, and the solution was simply to take the center. And here is checkmate, and let's go for the next puzzle. Okay, so here we noticed that our king is very safe there, so no problem with cannons or big junk threats. And we noticed that if we move the rook, the knight is providing check to the king. So what we want to do is to block the king, and the idea suggested was rook 87 and 97, like this. And here the king can flee here, and at that point there's no way to we can checkmate in mate like this. So that wasn't the solution I found, but it works because the king has no mobility left. What I was thinking about is simply using the check there and protecting the cannon with the rook, and after go back with the rook, since the king cannot flee here because of the pawn, and the rook protects the cannon. So that was another solution, and the very last solution was like this, almost the same, the rook at the side. And in the first variation, if the king moved up, it's still checkmate because the knights cover the fleeing square. In the chat, if you want to suggest a solution, you need to write a plus before if you want the solution to be counted. So let's go for the next puzzle. There's a lot of red in that fortress. Yeah, there is a little trap in this puzzle. You can think that the fortress of blue is extremely weak, but before that we need to have a look at our fortress. So here our main problem is that the pawn here is checking and threatening our king, and there is only one way to avoid the checkmate for red, and it's to remove the guard, because now it's also check for the blue, and we secured our king and provide check at the same time, and we need now to find a checkmate in one move. It's not complicated since the center of the fortress is not protected. We simply bring the rook and that's checkmate. There's no other solution to checkmate for what I see. So pay attention to what's going on there, and the solution comes by itself after that. Let's go. So 0495 works, but after the rook, after securing the king. Twenty seconds left. Sorry, I was writing a message. Here again, we have the same problem that our king is checked, so there is not so much move to avoid that. And we go for pawn takes pawn. Hello! And at that point, this square is preventing the king to flee, and quite kind of similar the first problem we solved together. The solution is to simply take the file here, and the rook protects the knight. We could think that rook here was good, because that would provide a double check and also kind of checkmate, but since the cannon is already threatening the king, there's only one solution, and it's 07, 06, taking the cannon with the pawn. So let's go for the new puzzle. Okay, nothing fancy in that puzzle, that's quite straightforward. Sorry, I forgot to remove the arrows. So there is two ideas that have been suggested. The first one, and very straightforward, is to see the mobility of that rook, and to see that the pawn here is already giving one threat. So we simply take the elephant, go there and go in the middle, and that's checkmate. And there's another idea that was provided that seemed to be working, because the knight here delivers check if the cannon is out, but the real problem is that there is a cannon here that is already threatening the knight. So if we move the cannon like this, It's simply cannon takes knight. Otherwise it would have been checkmate because the king would need to flee here and the rook checkmate there, because the knight would cover here. But since the cannon can take the knight, it doesn't work. But it's good to find the idea that the cannon could move and deliver a check like this. So the solution was rook takes elephant, and in that position, even here cannon there doesn't work because the cannon goes and cannon can't jump over cannon. So rook middle, and that's checkmate. And let's go for the new one. Yeah, the cannon is tricky and it's in the backside of the board and we don't pay so much attention. We can forget sometimes that there is blue pieces that can come back to defend, especially cannon and rooks. Okay, here 2ID. The first thing to notice is that the king is safe, no problems, and after that, if we move the rook, the elephant provides check to the king. So an idea suggested was 76, 74, so double check with the rook, and there's only one move, and it's the king in the center. And here we need to find a checkmate, and I'm not sure it is possible because blocking this square and this square will be complicated considering the material. A better idea in the case of when you double check is to control, sorry, is to control this square so that the king can go to the center, because the king has a lot of mobility in the center. So we can block here the center like this, simply. That was the move suggested. I was trying to see if there was another checkmate. And here, since the elephant already attacks here, we can checkmate using the rook mobility to block everything. The other variation, if the king would go upstairs, was, I'll show you like this. If rook takes, king here, and there the way to checkmate is to use the diagonal like this. Here it's checkmate, it's not set, because the elephant controls there and the knight controls here, so the king is blocked. Let's go for a new one. Okay, here the king is safe, the rook is kind of threatening if we move the elephant somewhere else, and wherever we move the elephant, the central square will be controlled. So there is two ideas that are almost the same, the two suggested by players. This one simply to take the pawn, or this one because that's another square. So whatever we do, it's checkmate because now the elephant covers back the central square. That would have been the same on the other side. Like it's simply moving the elephant, controlling the central square, and since there are no attack, finish the king here. And that's all for this one. Yeah, the greedy move wins, but those puzzles are quite classic once you it's this one is very like similar to other we already saw because there's only one idea here, and the idea is to take the center because we have a majority, three defenses, and he only has two, and we know that a pawn in the center, if the king is on the last file, is checkmate. So pawn take, no matter if it's pawn 85 or pawn 96, and pawn takes checkmate. Nothing else to see here. Okay, this one is a bit more funny. Here there's actually only one way to check, and it's by pushing the pawn. That's what everybody said. 74, 78 was probably a mistake. And here the king cannot take back the pawn because of the cannon, and there is a zero square to flee for the king here, so we need to find a way to checkmate or simply to check the king in one move. We could try with the elephant, but the elephant can be taken by the pawn, so it's not with the elephant, and it's simply with the knight, and the king is completely blocked here. Alright. several solutions here, but only one of them is working. The idea, and we need to close observe the game, is that the cannon here is already checking our king. So putting the rook here doesn't work because that's check, and that's the same for the other move. We could simply think that rook here would checkmate the king, but that works if we are not already checked before. So the cannon is the issue. We simply remove the cannon. It has to be taken with the king or with the pawn. That doesn't change so much. And here a rook in the middle simply and checkmate. So before trying to find check or checkmate, double check if there is a cannon or a king opposition before attacking the enemy. Okay, it looks like everyone is having the same idea, and I'm not going to the full tempo for this puzzle because it's not so complicated. This pawn here is providing a very good job controlling the central square and also providing support, so we can simply push and check, and now the king is in the last row and the central square is protected, so we checkmate with this pawn or this pawn, and there's nothing else to say for that puzzle. Alright, so a lot of players, 4 of us, wanted to put a rook here that's be achievable with a rook here or rook here. Those are the two first solutions, and it works because we have already a knight supporting there. So rook here, only one move is rook takes rook, and now rook checkmate because a rook next to the king in the fortress is providing checkmate. Something else has been suggested. It was, if I'm not wrong, 0595. Okay, rook takes in the center, and a guard takes, and now we need to find a checkmate, and there's no way to do so. The cannon here can't help. We could check with the knight, but this is not checkmate. There was a last idea that doesn't appear that was suggested. It was 86, 83, 75. Check. It's good if no piece could go there, because the king would have need to flee here, and we could checkmate like that. But since the cannon or even the knight or even the guard could block the check, there's no way to checkmate here in one move. We can try thing like this. So yeah, there's a rook there. I even paid attention to that. So there's no way to to finish with the king. The idea was to notice that there was a lot of defense here, and rook takes. This one is exactly the same. Rook checkmate. Let's play. That's puzzle 87 that we are doing now. Alright, so here the key square is 84, of course, the fortress is empty, and there we have 1, 2 and 3 attacks to that square, while there is only 2 defenses, and 3 solutions. The most popular are all the same. I will begin with this one. Rook takes because there's only one move, and here rook's checkmate because there's nothing back in the fortress. We could have gone with the pawn and checkmate no matter which rook, and we could have gone with the rook directly, and here we can finish with the rook by the diagonal, or even with the pawn here. So once this position is like you see what you can go through, there's no big deal. Yeah, often on those puzzles blue missed the win before red actually checkmates. Okay, this one is a bit more complicated than the previous we had. So everyone noticed that this square is important to come by with the rook. We'll see what does it change, because the king is safe, and also a good thing to notice is that the central square is controlled by our knight. He's doing a very good job. And one of the 2 solutions doesn't work. If we go with this rook, then he can take here, and here we are not able to achieve checkmate because, like, yeah, here doesn't work. However, if we leave that rook here, it will protect the elephant, and we can bring the other rook, and here there's only one move, and now we can checkmate with the pawn or with the rook. That's the same. And you suggested 79? 79? That's here. 73, sorry. Oh, pushing the pawn. 73, 83. Elephant takes pawn, and here there's no way. We would need like an elephant here would checkmate, things like that. But we cannot sneak a cannon or an elephant, and the rook cannot threaten the king here. So pawn takes is not working neither. Let's go. missed the timer. Sorry, but this one is not really interesting because it's the same as we saw before. The cannon is threatening the pawn is threatening the center, so we eat the pawn. That's the only move to check, and we checkmate here. So sorry, let's go for the new one, and here, yeah, the timer is here. That's so empty for blue. Like there is only one piece in his side, and it's the king. That may give us some ideas. Okay, yeah, the little connection lagged. So here, since there is like zero defense on all those column, we can do a back row checkmate, and it's very similar that we can do in Western chess. It's to block the king with the rooks, controlling a file, and here finishing the other file. We could play it this way and checkmate here, but the idea is to block a row and threaten with the other row, and there's nowhere else to go. But that situation is not really likely to happen, considering like how bad was red just before moving. It's a bit weird puzzle, and yeah, that's the same idea. Maybe there was another idea like this, and checkmate because the knights cover the fleeing square. That would work also. But let's go for the new one, and that's puzzle 91. Yeah, exactly. There is here only one way to check, and even if there was several ways to check, this is often a very good square to bring the rook. Sorry for that arrow. And the rook was protected by the knight and also by the elephant. And here we need to find a way to checkmate, and we can simply take the pawn. There's no way to flee in the fortress. There was also that check, but here that's not checkmate because the guard can't bring. But it's good to see when elephant can threaten the king and see after if it's a good or a bad move. But here it wasn't working, but still the elephant was providing a check. And let's do the next one. Not so easy. Sorry, no, it was quite easy. I missed something. I forgot to count an attack we had, because here we have 1 attack, 2 attack, and 3 attack, and there is only 2 defenses. So I missed that, and I thought that we had only 2 attacks instead of 3. So here we can simply conclude like this. But I forgot that we had this one, so my idea was to go with the pawn here, so that now there is a knight, and here there's a very fancy way to checkmate, because the knight cover here, and before he moves here there was the knight here, so that was my idea, to use that knight in a quite fancy way, but it's way simpler to finish with the rook. I simply show you again. There's so much pieces here. Yeah, it's quite fancy to finish with the knight that controls the central square, and the other issues are blocked by the own pieces of blue. So here finding the first move is not so hard, because there's only one move that does check, but try to think about how to checkmate once you found the first move, because we could think that there's no other solution. Here there is only one move to check, and it's by taking the rook. The rook is free. And here right now, how do we checkmate? Because we cannot put the rook in the center, we cannot use that rook to check, and there's no other way. What is to notice, yeah, is that the rook can move diagonally, and also that the cannon already covers this. So checkmate here, plus so far 96. Well done if you see so that one. And let's go for puzzle 94. Here we could try to check with the knight here or here, but if we check, the kings go to the central file, central square, and there's no way to catch up with that and to checkmate. So the idea is exactly the same that I suggested in a previous problem, is to use the knight. 91, 94, rook sacrifice. The knight is protecting here, so he can't take back with the king, he has to take back with the guard. And here we have the same idea, because if we are able to bring the knight here, we check the king, and we control also the central square, and the king is blocked because of his two own wards. So here simply, sorry, it was checkmate. And that's the same fancy idea of the knight. So remember that you can checkmate only with a knight if the king is in a bad position within his own fortress. Alright, here we have a very empty fortress, not so much defense on the last rows, and two rooks that we want to use to cooperate. And in Korean chess, the king cannot go out of the fortress, so this knight is not protected, and we can simply take. That's the move 71-75. And here, since we control the central file, we just need to bring a rook, and that's a way to checkmate. There was other suggestions like 02, 05, going to the center here. But if the king goes there, we cannot bring a rook here and control that file. And if we bring the rook here, which is the only way to check with that rook, there is still this solution. So bringing the rook here doesn't work. And there was 71, 81 trying to go there, but here the king is in the center, and we would need actually a third rook or something else to control those squares. And also, if rook here, another way is to bring the knight there, and that's gain the tempo, and there's no way to checkmate. So there was only one solution, and it was to take that very central file and to finish the king depending on the file he goes. And that's puzzle 96. Yeah, the two elephant like that never happen, especially like this one. That's not very likely to happen. Here again, we can see that there's already two attacks and two defenses. So the idea is to remove a defender, and there's two ways to do so. The first one is with this pawn and take, and the other solution is with that pawn and take with the rook or with the pawn. That's the same idea. And there was another move that was suggested, 75, 95. Okay, taking the rook in the middle, but here we cannot checkmate in that position because the guard is defending a lot, and the king may flee here if we go for a check, for example. So bringing the rook too early wasn't working there because it's because the guard still defends. 86.95. Yeah, that's the same, and it's the solution I actually provided. Oh, 96, 95. No, it will be the same problem. If the guard is in the center, now there's no way to checkmate. We cannot bring the knight, we don't have cannons, the elephant is not useful. If rook takes, it's not protected, so the king takes, and if pawn there, simply go to the center. So remove the pawn before the guard and conclude after. Yeah, the move is valid. Okay, there is a little trick with this one. No, not so much actually. There is different solutions here. Alright, so our king is safe, and we have a rook here and two threats there. That's good, and we can simply rook take, and we notice that because the king moved, now the knight is attacking here, and we can checkmate there. We can do the same with the pawn, and that's exactly the same solution. There is a third solution that is a bit more fancy, in my opinion, is to take the rook, and there is a way to checkmate even if that knight wasn't here. Try to imagine the same position without the knight and find a checkmate. Yeah, keep pushing the rook, and it does checkmate because our cannon is covering here. And it's important to have a look at the cannons that may be a support for attacks, and in that position that's a checkmate. But here, since there was the knight, it was even simpler. Go to the middle and no problems. Next, puzzle 98, 2 more to go after this one, and it will be over for this series. Okay, I think I messed up the timer, but still the solutions are there. The idea is to notice that the cannon is doing very good job here and locking the king into the fourth file, and we can simply use the rooks to conclude like this. Rook take, and here that's checkmate because of this. But there is another solution. The idea is to remove the defender, and if we pay close attention, we have an elephant that perfectly does the job. Elephant takes check, king here, and now there is no more defense, so we can conclude with a rook no matter which one. And I think I covered all what was written. 9966. Yeah, that's the elephant takes. Yeah, those was the two idea. And now puzzle 99, and again a very naked fortress for blue. Okay, everyone needs to find it, this one. Yeah. Here there is a rook and we need to consider this one before finding attack. There's a lot of attack that are possible on easy, like rook checkmate here, but that's not checkmate, and we need to eliminate the rook before, and now we need to find the checkmate, and there is like two solutions. There's one here since it's protected with the knight, or we can also, oh no, this one doesn't work because of the cannon. So in that position we can go with the knight also. Knight here or knight here. No, not knight here because of the cannon. So there was one trap, and it's to neglect the king. 86, 96. No. Yes. Yeah, it does. Sorry, I forgot that the both squares were controlled. Yeah, the cannon was a bit sneaky. And let's play the last one. Again, very classic. Alright, so a lot to notice. There is a single guard here that is already attacked. There is also a knight that is checking if we move this rook. So a simple idea is to control the center like this. And what was also suggested? 83, 80, sorry, 83, 85. Going here, we use the fact that it's check, and now we won another attack to the center, and we can simply conclude like that. There, 83, 82, that's this move. But here we cannot checkmate because we didn't really use the fact that moving the rook was checking, and we didn't put the rook in a way better position here because our objective is really to put more pressure on that guard. So this idea is also exactly the same because we use the diagonal mobility, and that provides checkmate. So yeah, that was puzzle 100, and that's over for this series. Last week I asked if you wanted to continue on checkmate in 2 or checkmate in 3, and the feedback I had for a few people during the week was more likely to go to checkmate in 3 puzzles. So that will be a bit more complicated, and I'm wondering how much time do you want to solve a problem, like 2 or 3 minutes per problem, because sometimes it can be it's combinations, so it can explode quite quickly. So for me, 2 minutes is a minimum. I was thinking about something between 2 or 3 minutes, because if we rush those one, that's, yeah, 1 minute per move, but that's not linear. It's like checkmate in 5 may need more than. Um, the problem is that some puzzle will have very straightforward position, like we have 4 attacks, there is 3 defense, and we remove all the defense, while other puzzles may have very tricky move to find, and even for me. So we'll try 2 minutes, I think, and I will try to see if it works, and we see that together. But that won't be next week, because next week we are having our tournament. This tournament, if you are from Europe and if you want to spend a nice weekend, you can simply register and send us a mail to EGF. So yeah, do it as fast as you can so that we can already organize that. And otherwise, I think it will be in 2 weeks that we'll play again puzzles, and those will be checkmate in 3. I hope you appreciated, and I wish you a nice end of evening and a good weekend. So see you, and take care.